Hi everyone, this is Duncan from the podcast Under the Stairs. This particular video you're checking out just now has the archival recording attached to it. The archival recording is from our podography, I think that's the term that we use, and it will feature reviews of movies that fall under the 88 Films Italian Collection series. Now, the vast majority of reviews we've done over the last 5 years have been in audio format and published on our RSS feed for the podcast. We are transitioning over to give you access to all those reviews right here on YouTube under a playlist. Now, we're doing that because we're about to do our first video recording of 88 Films Italian Collection release, that being Tentacles. So there's plenty of opportunity to delve into the back catalogue of the reviews here. And if you like what you hear, then please hit subscribe on the channel, leave your comments below, and check out the rich catalogue of over 1,200 episodes we have on podcasts Under the Stairs on any podcatching device or Spotify that you use. So stick around, enjoy the episode, and I'll speak to you very soon.
Easily frightened, we advise you not to watch this film. On the other hand, if you enjoy the violent emotions, this film is for you.
Body a whore, dead forevermore. Body 3 times cursed, pain and torture first. Body in a crypt, body hellfire dipped. Body ringing bell, body into hell. No one's life you save, crumble in your grave.
Where did you hide her?
In a safer place than in your truck.
Sometimes I could kill you, Iris.
Just once. I want you to make love to me before I die.
You mustn't speak like that. Death has no power to separate us.
You swore you'd never come back into this room again.
I want to stay here alone with my mother.
Frank, your mother's dead.
So is Anna.
You've got to get rid of your stupid little toy. Do you understand me, Frank?
No!
You will, though. You'll see. You'll do it.
A young girl was reported missing 3 days ago. When last seen, she was in this area. Did you see anyone then? No. Who are you? Police. If you enjoy the violent emotions, this film is for you.
And welcome back. So you've just heard the trailer for disc number 24 of the 88 Films Italian Collection series. We are looking at Beyond the Darkness. Now, according to the 88 Films website, here's the blurb. It says, God bless the late and dearly missed Joe D'Amato. Not only did the censor-baiting Svengali of sleaze give us such video-nasty masterpieces as Absurd from 1981 and Anthropopicus from 1980, as well as the sexploitation classic 11 Days, 11 Nights from 1987, he also unleashed one of Euro horror's grisliest gore fests in 1979, frequently censored Beyond the Darkness. Focusing on a psycho-styled story of a young lover under the authority of his besotted but bloodthirsty matriarch who enjoys bouts of human taxidermy, bodily mutilation and cannibalism, this crimson-ridden splatter caper might just be D'Amato's crowning achievement. Starring the legendary Cinzia Morel from The Beyond as a beautiful blonde who's lured into the killer's premise. Beyond the Darkness also features a sublime score from prog rockers Goblin and a sick but nonetheless satisfying sense of humour. Also known as Buried Alive, this D'Amato classic is finally making its UK HD premiere uncut and uncensored from 88 Films. Special features are a restored 2K from original 16mm negative, the LPCM English audio, LCPM Italian audio with newly translated English subtitles, Omega Rising, Remembering Joe D'Amato, a feature-length documentary looking at the legendary career of the notorious filmmaker, featuring interviews with Michelle Suave, George Eastman, Rosella Drudy, Carlo Miacordo, and more. It runs approximately 68 minutes. A trailer, Italian opening and closing credits, and Beyond the Darkness locations then and now. So yeah, I will say that I did manage to troll through all the special features. Do love it when they shove a little doc in there. The documentary's kind of great. It's great seeing George Eastman in his older age and Michele Suave, etc, etc. Lots of really good stories as well. Some stuff from D'Amato himself talking about how he just ripped off people, which I love the honesty. He's like, yeah, I just ripped off that, and we were like, yeah, that's fine. We can live with that. So yeah, Beyond the Darkness from 1979 went through a series of issues in terms of when it would be released and how many times it was released. Technically a remake of The Third Eye, which is also an Italian film. I think it's got Franco Nero. I really should have done my research on that before starting. But a remake as in kind of shares a similar plot, but nothing even remotely near the quality of that movie at all. This one's totally fucking different. It's also worth saying as well, this movie was re-released and re-released and re-released and re-released, loads and loads. It took about 6 years to get released in America under the name Buried Alive, and yeah, it didn't do very well. It also was loosely passed off as a remake to the Evil Dead movies. I think maybe as Evil Dead 3. Also in Spain it was released as in their House series, and in Mexico it was released as part of the Zombie series of movies, so Zombie Flesh Eaters, etc, 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 so as part of all that as well. So it's done the rounds, which a lot of these movies do, to be fair. There's a couple of quotes on Wikipedia which made me chuckle, like really, really hardly chuckle. One of them is rumoured on production that working with D'Amato, actress Frank Stoppy recalled him saying on set that we're making a movie to make people throw up. We must make them vomit. Which it didn't quite do that to me, but I could see where people would hurl if they had to. So yeah, let's kind of get into the plot. The plot is fucking bonkers, like absolutely bonkers. So much so that even the listed plot synopsis on some websites bears a passing resemblance, kinda, but not fully, to what actually happens in the movie. But at its kind of crux, we have this taxidermist whose fiance dies, and he kind of uses some sort of fluid, I think Reanimator-esque, to inject her and then steals the corpse. Okay, so maybe a preservative, maybe some sort of secret serum, who knows. It's weird in that we see that Frank's kind of mother slash person that keeps his house in order stabs a voodoo doll, which we insinuate kills Frank's fiancée. Maybe. It's never explained. We don't need to explain it at all. Like, even this movie relies on you not trying to work out what's happened. So Frank digs up the body, brings her back, kind of goes about cutting her up and making her into a taxidermy doll, which he is going to continue to keep. But it turns out that all this kind of digging up corpses and all the rest really is kind of set off a little kinky spark, which he didn't know that he had before. And in between Iris, his mother, who, if she's not breastfeeding him, she's giving him a tug, if you know what that means. You know, ripping the head off it. Maybe that gives a bit more. Like she's all over him in a sexual way, which is wholly uncomfortable to watch in this movie. Yeah, she's trying to settle him down, but Frank's kind of now got this kind of Ed Gein-esque thirst for blood, and starts meeting women, bringing them back, and kind of torturing them and killing them. Iris is helping them get rid of the bodies, but she's no saying either. There's a great scene where Frank's out and about, as you do, and this jogger, I think she's supposed to like go over her ankle, or she pulls a muscle or something, and he just invites her back, and of course they have sex, just as you do. Pick up a jogger, have sex, and they're getting right down into it, like right down into it, until she realises that in the bed next to them, his taxidermy ex-fiancée is lying there, which, believe it or not, doesn't put her in the mood anymore. And so they have this huge fight, and Frank kind of turns to cannibalism at this part. So we've got necrophilia, we've got cannibalism, we've got murder, we've got shitloads all going on in this movie as Goblin plays in the background. Then we get, like, it's kind of spiralling out from this. You know, Iris is still helping them get rid of the bodies. They invite a kind of elderly person over, and it kind of looks like we're going a certain way, where maybe this is going to lead to the whole plan being rumbled, but it doesn't quite. And Frank's out and about, and he discovers Anna's body, which is kind of weird. He's not entirely sure what happens there, and then decides that his way to get over that is to go and, you know, go to a disco. Yeah, 1970s disco. And yeah, it kind of, he looks like he's going to get another woman to take home and murder, but, you know, we then find out that Anna has a twin sister out of nowhere. Like, whew, this like massive twist. I think her name's Elena, or is it Helena? I can't remember. Anyway, she shows up. Of course, she finds the corpse, and that makes her pass out. And Iris comes across Elena, goes to kill her, but Frank intervenes. I think it's because Frank thinks it's Anna. Maybe it isn't. I'm not entirely sure. But they have this huge fight where he gets his cock stabbed. She fucking goes for his eye. I think she takes her eye out. But Frank ultimately kills Iris. And goes down, incinerates his fiancee's body so he can be with Elena? Maybe? Maybe? But as all this is happening, you know, like, one of the funeral home people show up, and, you know, Frank dies. I mean, that's going to happen anyway. So the funeral home employee thinks it's Anna's body, which is kind of this nice little twist. Returns it to the funeral home because he's going to bury it, and that's the point that Elena wakes up, and she pushes open the coffin, and then we get this massive scream, and there's where it's finished. So to outside bystanders, they think that Anna has come back from the grave, but it's actually the twin sister. You have a twin sister. Yeah, it's a twin sister. The movie's fucking bonkers, right? I've raced through that because there's no one scene in here that you can actually sit and try and dissect. It is a catalogue of the macabre. It is a movie that is sautéed in so many different wrong sauces. It's a movie that shouldn't hold together because it is so mishmash, and pieces of this go somewhere, and most stories are not fully realised, and it's kind of playing off Ed Gein, and it's playing off Psycho, and it's touching into real life serial killer stuff that was coming out at the time, all under the guise of the Third Eye remake, kinda. It's a mess of a movie, to put it bluntly. The gore effects are fucking brilliant though. They've really put a bit of time to try and make you, by this standard, by 79 standards, it's really, really, really well done. But it is pushing every conceivable taboo and good taste in cinema to the edge and beyond. It's like Joe D'Amato takes a sledgehammer to put in a nail. It's so far over the top for what a movie like this should be, that I get the feeling that he was just trying to create the most vile thing he could. And like I say, it shouldn't hold up. Weirdly, this is my second viewing of this movie. I've not seen it in several years, but the movie does hold up, and it really works together in that if you try and scrutinise what's passing by your eyeballs, you will struggle with this movie, but when you sit down and let it wash all over you, it is just a collection of wonderfully horrid scenes. The score is brilliant. Goblin deliver another memorable score. Rumour has it that some of the music that was actually created would be used in other projects that came afterwards, which wouldn't surprise me. But it shouldn't work. This movie really shouldn't work, and I think it kind of does. I found myself just giggling at how over the top the whole movie was from start to finish. It's like Burial Ground when you're watching that movie and you're just like, what the fuck is going on here, and why are we doing this, and who is this actor, and why does he look like a man, and why is he playing a kid? And when you roll with these movies, I think there's something kind of special about them. It's not a movie I could heartily recommend to anyone who is not a fan of Italian genre cinema, and even then I would have to shove some caveats in there to say, by the way, you need to kind of be into Fulci and D'Amato to even begin to sit and watch this one, but don't even, like, Fulci's linear narrative is more cohesive than D'Amato's is in this movie, so it's worth taking that into account as well. And on top of all that, I think what the big kind of takeaway from watching this movie is that D'Amato was a really interesting, if not completely incoherent, filmmaker. I think at times his inconsistencies may be to his credit. Like, where you get like certain directors that are on a tear, on a run of these phenomenal movies. Fulci's always the great example of that, where, you know, he's doing great stuff. I mean, stuff that I dearly love, but it's not until he finds his audience, really, with Zombie Flesh Eaters, and then runs with a tear through his Gates of Hell trilogy, The Black Cat. You know, when he's starting to do all these movies, that's when people start to take notice of him. And D'Amato, in a lot of respects, is kind of similar. I mean, from sitting back and watching something like Beyond the Darkness, in the next 2 years he will put out Anthropophagus, which certainly is a more refined version of this movie, for sure. A lot of these techniques in the gore capacity, intestinal munching, etc., is all carried over. So you've got that as well, right? So you've got this, and then the following year he does Absurd, a movie that I dearly love as well. So, I mean, he had this little run of 3 years where everything just meshed up and just became great for him. I mean, that's not to belittle the rest of his career. He did some cannibal stuff that's worth checking out as well. And I never really went too far into his erotica, but he did a lot of that as well. So it's weird. It's one of those ones where I don't think it's his best movie by any stretch of the imagination. I think you could say it's definitely his most horrific movie. But it's kind of like this is the precursor to what you're going to get in Anthropophagus and Absurd. It's like he's testing the template out on what he can do, what he can't do, what he can get away with in this movie, only to be usurped with the two following movies, which are infinitely better movies than this. Yeah, it's a great movie to revisit. I can't wait to give it like a bit of breathing room again and come back and view it one more time and check out what I think. I'm going to score it pretty high as well. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5 on the Netflix scale rating. I really like this one. Like I say, I don't think it's as good as Anthropophagus. It certainly is nowhere near as good as Absurd, which is a movie that every time I watch just gets better and better, but one worth checking out nonetheless. So there we go. It felt rushed. It felt like we hardly got into it, but to be honest, it's a movie that, can you deep dive Beyond the Darkness, and are you a better reviewer for doing that? I don't know. Those are two questions I'm going to shove out there for you guys to consider and answer.